Welcome all. This is the November 15 Java with the data structure question paper in Madras University. So the 14th questions for a part B. Write a Java program to demonstrate the use of switch statement. The Java switch statement executes one statement from multiple conditions. It is like if-else-if ladder. The switch statement works with byte, short, int, long, enum types, strings and some wrapper types like byte, short, int and long. The Java switch statement executes one statement from multiple conditions. It is like if-else-if ladder. The switch statement works with byte, short, integer types. The string and some wrapper types like byte, short can be used. There can be one or n number of case values for a switch expression. The case value must be of switch expression type only. The case value must be literal. It doesn't allow the variables. The case value must be unique. If the case of duplicate value, it render compile time error. The Java switch expression must be byte, short, integer data types. In each case statement can have a break statement which is optional. When control reached to the break statement, it jumped the control after the switch expression. If a break statement is not found, it can execute the next case. The case value can have a default label which is optional. This is the syntax for the switch statement. So switch off expression, you have to give in the expression. There is a case value for 1 to n. We have to give in more cases. Finally, we give the default. It is the mandatory one. This is the example for the switch statement. Here a number is the variable in integer type. It can assign a value 20. Number of 20 goes to the switch statement. It can check the case from a multiple option which is true. That part will be executed. Here the case 20 is the matching part, so the value, the message system.out.println will be printer 20. So if there is no cases is match, means the default value will be printed. Next question. Discuss the different levels of access protection available in Java. Java provides a number of access modifiers to set access levels for classes, variables, methods and constructor. The 4 access levels are visible to the package. The default, no modifiers are needed. Next one is the private, public and the protected mode. The default access modifier, there is no keyword, can be used for a default access modifier. The default access modifier means we do not explicitly declare an access modifier for a class, field, method, etc. A variable or method declared without any access control modifier is available to any other class in the same package. The field is an interface or implicitly public, static, final, and the method in an interface are default public. This is a default access modifier. Next is the private access modifier. The methods, variables and constructors that are declared private can only be accessed within the declared class itself. The private modifier is the most restrictive access level. Class and interfaces cannot be private. Using the private modifier is the main way that an object encapsulates itself and hides data from the outside world. This is an example for the private access control. Here the format variable of the logger class is private. So there is no way for other classes to retrieve its value directly. Next is the public access modifier. A class, a method, constructor, interface declared public can be accessed from any other classes. Therefore, field, method, blocks declared inside a public class can be accessed from any class belonging to the Java universe. Class inheritance. All the public methods and variables of a class are inherited by its subclasses. If the public class we are trying to access is in a different package, then the public class still need to be imported. This is an example for the public access specifier. The Java main method can be declared in a public access specifier so that only we can access outside of the class. Next is the protected access modifier. So when you declared as a protected for a variable methods in a superclass can be accessed only by the subclasses in other packages or any class within the package of the protected members class. The protected access modifier cannot be applied to a class and interface methods fields can be declared protected. However, methods and fields in an interface cannot be declared protected. The following parent class use the protected access control to allow its child class override. So open speaker method can be declared as a protected, so we can inherit it from its subclasses. Access control and inheritance are following the sum of the rules. The method declared public in a superclass also must be public in all subclasses. The method declared protected in a superclass must either be protected or public in a subclasses. They cannot be private. Methods declared private are not inherited at all, so there is no rule for them. Next question, discuss about defining and extending interfaces with example. An interface is a reference type in Java. It is similar to class. It is a collection of abstract methods. A class implements an interface, thereby inheriting the abstract methods of the interface. An interface is different from a class in several ways, including the following. We cannot instantiate an interface. An interface does not contain any constructor. All of the methods in an interface are abstract. An interface cannot contain instance fields. The only fields that can appear in an interface must be declared both static and final. An interface can extend multiple interfaces. So how to declare the interface? This is a example for declaring a interface. Here interface is a keyword for declaring a interface. So we must give the public as the access specifier for every interfaces. Here name of the interface as the interface name. So we have to declare any abstract and static methods or static fields. So every interfaces have the following property. An interface is the implicitly abstract. You do not need to use an abstract keyword while declaring an interface. So explicitly doesn't mention explicitly. Each method in an interface is also implicitly abstract. So need not to declare. Methods in an interface are implicitly public. So how to implement the interface? A class uses the implement keywords to implement an interface. The implement keyword appear in the class declaration following the extended portion of the declaration. A public class Mammaland implement the animal. Here Mammaland is the superclass, Mammaland is the subclass, animal is the superclass. Here eat is the method to display some messages. Next question, how will you throw our own exception? Discuss with them. An exception is an issue or a runtime error occurred during the execution of a program. When an exception occurred, the program gets terminated abruptly and the code past the line that generates the exception never gets executed. This is the example for some exception handling. Here divide by error. So here C equal to A divided by B. A will be some number, can be assigned some number. The second number, if it is 0, means the Java compiler throw the exception, that is the divide by 0 error. So the error abruptly disturb the program. So throwing the exception manually, there are two types of exception. User defined and predefined exception is represented in a class. To throw an exception explicitly, we need to instantiate the class of it and throw its object using the throw keyword. So Here null pointer exception get the exception and it throw the null pointer, so the Java compiler can catch the exception and will terminate properly. Next is the user defined exception. The throw keyword is mostly used to throw the user defined exception. Whenever we need to define our own exception, you need to define a class extending the throwable class. Instantiate this class through its using the throw keyword whether you want the exception. So write a note on random access file. The class is used for reading and writing to random access file. The random access file behave like a large array of bytes. There is a cursor implied to the array called file pointer. By moving the cursor, we do the read and write options. Here some of the differentiation between a constructor and its descriptions. Here constructor random access file, it create a random access file. Modifier and it type. So here close, get channel, read integer, read UTTF. Seek is the methods of a random access file. So the seek files return a null value, read UTF return a string value, read integer can read a 32-bit integer from this. Get channel, it return a unique file channel object. Close method is used to close the stream files. So read length 6 are used for a random access file. So these are all some of the example for the random access. Next question, discuss about any two AWT controls. The Java AWT controls are the controls that are used to design a graphical user interfaces or a web application. To make an effective GUI applications, Java provide java.awt packages that support various AWT controls. Some of the AWT controls are label, button, checkbox group, list, text field, text area, etc. Structure of the AWT controls. Every AWT inherit controls from the container class. The container class represents objects in a graphical representation and it is an abstract class in the GUI interface. So commonly known graphical user interface, some of the listers are label. A label is a user for placing the text inside the container. A label is used only for inputting the text. The label does not imply that the text can be altered, or it can be used as a button which can be further worked upon. The syntax for the label as n is the object for a label class. Here name is the label of the name. It can be positioned in a center. So label.center is the argument for aligning the text of the label. Next control is button. This command generate a button in the user interface. Clicking on the button would move the command to another page or another web server, which is used to show several other outputs in the user interface pages. This is some example for a button creation. A1, A2 is the object of the button class. So the button name is the submit and cancel. So here can use the button for submitting and cancelling the pages. So next is the checkbox. It can be a certain questions and the checkbox is used to determine the true or false nature of the questions being asked. If the checkbox is ticked, then it means that the set question is true, which if it is unchecked, it means that the set question is false. It basically a true or false statement in a Java language. This is the example for a syntax for the checkbox. Here checkbox 1 is the object for a checkbox class. Here hello world is the name of the checkbox.